Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Well, hello, you're welcome along. Hope you enjoyed your weekend and got to see some of the football action in the Allianz Football League. We're back to review it all here in the company of Niall McCoy and Enda McGinley joining us as well this weekend. Lads, hope you're well. Niall, did you enjoy the weekend's action?
Yeah, more chaos. And
you like chaos, do you?
I love it. Well, I love it when Armagh are winning with the chaos, but just with the weather and all, just another crazy weekend. Like, it's just the amount of, it's mad now in football, and I know again the breeze plays this part, but double digit advantages no longer are a guarantee of anything. Yeah. And it's just I was watching the Armagh match yesterday. I was watching with the parents, and at half time I think there was 12 in it. I was just sitting going, this match isn't over. This match isn't over. And in the end, Armagh probably should have won. Yeah. And it was just a story of the weekend. We saw it Westmeath the whole way through. Just another great weekend. Exciting. And don't know how to call it. Yeah.
And I mean, the turns and the twists in the matches so far, I mean, from a managerial point of view, it must be a thing that you tear your hair about because it's so hard to manage these games sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny, we were doing a coaching conference a few weeks back, and that's something that I'd mentioned, that just our ability in terms of, from a manager's point of view, our ability to control things, or any team's ability to control things, is out the window, and it's such a change. Like, I suppose for the traditionalists, and we all, I suppose, are that way inclined. We grew up watching sort of chaos, and then during that period of probably 2010 to 2020 or after, it became exceptionally controlled, and it was all about the key words were game management and controlling possession and all of those things that were built around that. And it's just gone now completely, and we're seeing top teams in the country lose 10, 12 point leads, not even in a half, but in 15 minutes. Just when you start a slide, when a team gets on top of you, particularly on kickouts, you can sustain such massive damage in a short period of time. And as yet, there's no obvious way to stop that. I'm sure there will be much work going on to try and say, how do we wrestle back control? How do we stop a 3-point slide becoming a 10-point slide? But it's just massive. It is brilliant for the fans. It is not good on the sidelines. It looks enjoyable from the players' point of view.
Yeah, and we're in year 2 of the new rules, and the top teams in the country have no game management, haven't figured out, what may be the exception of Donegal, who seem to have the real balance struck. Every other top team, and I know Kerry are obviously missing a lot of players and all, the top teams haven't worked out how to control games in these new rules, and it's brilliant as a spectator, but it's really interesting tactically how teams haven't solved this issue. And again, the exception of Donegal, but it's just I don't know what way it's going to go. I don't know what way it's going to go. You can't bank in anything at the moment, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Well, that's what
it seemed to be like I'd seen a couple of comments, maybe even an article or two written from after the first couple of weeks, that the massive swings and the wind impact on the games that was such a feature of last year's early season didn't seem to be so prevalent. And again, always the danger of reading anything into early National League football. But we were starting to think, well, maybe teams have learned, and this weekend past just completely blew a hole in that one. So, but we've seen teams both with wind and against wind actually make strong plays. But certainly, again, the elements, whether to play with it or against it at half time, or if you win the toss, those are certainly big things. But fast forward to Croke Park in the summer, when everything is decided, and that type of thing becomes less prevalent, less obvious, because the wind tends to be less of an issue in Croker.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we start then with Armagh yesterday, Niall, seeing as you mentioned their game against Roscommon. Roscommon won it by 3 in the end, but I mean, Armagh made a great comeback. But just on the kickouts thing, and Enda, you can jump in on this as well. Again, Armagh maybe caught, there was definitely one short kick out that led to a Roscommon goal early on, where Roscommon did that really high press. I think it was Enda Smith did he with it on the top of the arc and nipped in for, was it a second goal in a minute at that stage early on yesterday?
Yeah. Piggery is the word of the weekend. We saw Kieran McGeeney talked about it. It's the long kick out battle is just a battle of wills. Armagh, I think, something stupid like 14 or Roscommons in the second half. I can't remember what the number, but just crazy numbers. And it was just the wind obviously played a part. I was holding the ball up a touch, but it was just desire, and we're just this is the thing for me. Like, the wind obviously is playing a massive part, but we're just seeing so many spells of break ball just continually falling to the one team time and time and time again. And that Kerry spell against Armagh in last year's quarter final, we're just seeing that repeated constantly throughout the league. Crazy game. Armagh were awful in the first half. As bad a half as I've seen them play in probably a couple of years. Really, really poor. Still coming away as thinking, they could have won that match. Obviously, one of the most consequential breaches we've seen since it's been brought in, because that goal goes in, 25 minutes left, it's back to 4 points. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind Armagh go on and win that game, because they'd taken absolute control. And it wasn't even so much the 4 point swing, it just completely killed the Armagh momentum for 10 minutes. They just lost their way for 10 minutes after that. Roscommon got the third goal, got a feeling back into the match, and still Armagh only lost by 3 points.
Yeah.
So even that 10 minutes without that break, that 4 point swing, they could have got those 4 points. So it's just a weird performance, and Armagh being a weird team all year. Just a total commitment to attacking. When you have a half back line of Ross McQuillan, Tyrone Kelly, Charlie Oak Burns. I think Tomas McCormick come on, kicked the point from cornerback. Garrett Murphy, the fullback, kicked the point. It's just all out attack, and they're leaking goals. 6 in 2 games versus 1 scored. Which is the big thing, because when people talk when this 2 point come in that goals wouldn't be important, it's very clear that goals are still very important. But Roscommon in that first half done enough probably to win the match, and deservedly so, but just
well, they made the most of their purple patch. Just on that kick-out thing, and I remember watching that game against Kerry last year in Croke Park, and I think it was Jason Foley said afterwards, like, everyone was trying to figure out what the key is maybe to dominating the kick-out, and he just used one word. I think it was intent. Was the word that he used. Can you bring any, is there anything more scientific to it from your point of view, or is it just down to that willpower and piggery, as Kieran McGeeney put it?
Yeah, it is willpower. It is that classic thing where it can feel, when, say, if I'm looking back at video and I'm trying to pick out why is the team losing kickouts, the first thing is there's sort of key areas around a break ball that you would want to make sure that your team is picking up. But sometimes you can have players in the right positions, they're making the right move, but the ball just goes the other way. And so you have to let that go. That is the element of roll of the dice. But you have to assume that if you get 10 kickouts and your players are always making sure that they are putting themselves in the right place, then you're bound to get hands on 40%, even if you're a wee bit unlucky, 40%. The key for me is during those periods, and even during that famous Armagh collapse against Kerry on the kick-out in last year's All-Ireland semi-final, 2-3 times within that 15-minute spell, Armagh got hands-on ball and got it up the pitch. And when we talk about game management, I think that's where it will come, that if you break the siege, so if you've lost 1 kick-out, 2 kick-out, 3, 4, and then you get hands-on ball, you have to maintain that possession. You have to get your foothold in the game and stop the other team's momentum by building yourself a period of momentum. Them times in that All-Ireland semi-final, Armagh coughed up possession, maybe dropped a shot short one, and give the ball back. Like, the game is now more about possession than ever. The kickouts is that 50-50 moment, but just in certain times of the game, you could be coming off the wrong side of it. There is something about a long kick out, particularly when you're under pressure, that's coming out. The momentum is with the attacking team going to break that ball back in. Your midfielders are going to fetch it. Their midfielders are going to smash it back in, and the ball's travelling back towards your own goal. Your defenders might be turning back towards their own goal. And so there's something more awkward about that. The only benefit you have is either be it calls or signals or trying to load the dice or put it on top of your favourite players. But with video analysis, with crowds at games, with noise, fancy calls, fancy moves rarely are very dependable, especially when the wheels are coming off the wagon, which is when you need them most. A plan that's not working is nearly worse than no plan at all, where players just dig in, right, put it out and let us go fight for this. So there's a real balance, and it's such a change in mindset from the era where we were looking, we should be winning 80% of kickouts, 90% of kickouts, 100% of kickouts. Now the top teams with top goalkeepers, top coaches are saying it's just piggery out there. It's just piggery, just get it out and you have to fight for it. But I think you will, if you keep putting your bodies in the line and keep getting the right position, you will get hands on ball. But it is then key what you do to break momentum when you get that hand on ball. And what we're seeing at the minute is that teams maybe are still trying to force things when that of all times is not the time to do that.
And we see that teams are setting off so much more aggressively to block the short. Blaine Hughes was caught out. Niall Morgan was caught out. Cavan were caught out. I can't remember who the Tyrone player that missed the open net was, but like we're just seeing
Shonny O'Donnell went in and won the ball anyway, and he pandered across and they missed it.
So you know, teams are.
There was great discussion on the sub bench afterwards whenever the two players involved were, and you could see them all talking about, well, that ball was coming to me, or where was it going, or where was the hand pass. That was certainly the most butchered goal chance of the weekend. But going back to the kick out thing, that's probably the other thing that we're seeing this spring that we didn't see last year because the rules were so fresh out and teams weren't getting ready for it. But the other thing that goes hand in hand with the long kick out being so dicey, when teams want to go short, the ability to put a really hard press on those defenders is so much better and very, very clearly now being worked on by the top teams, which means that short kickouts are not nice at all for the team. Even if you win them, you're in a tough position before you get that ball out of your own half.
Yeah, but I suppose on the flip side then, if a team pushes up on you and you do get your kick out away with a long kick out and someone can win it in the middle, you're away down the other end. Maybe they're not as well set up defensively down the other end.
Yeah, and you're seeing floods of body, and I suppose that Armagh kick out was a perfect example. The goal that was called back for a breach.
That was Ross McCullum's goal.
Yeah, it was like a flying V from Mighty Ducks. Did 5 jerseys in a V and they were gone. And once you saw them gone at halfway at those numbers, you're just thinking straight away, goal.
Yeah.
You're thinking goal. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing so many bodies flood forward. Now, unfortunately, the one stepped over the line. I think it was Andrew Murnan actually that stepped over who actually won the ball. But it's risk and reward. And you know, this dropping off that you said, it's just not possible anymore. Just
on Roscommon, lads, they're going along nicely, but they're going along quietly as well. Where are they at? Are they capable, do you think, of making a real push this year? Because they tend to come every so often, don't they, nab maybe a Connacht title, and they've done well in Division 1 in the past. But can they become maybe a little bit more consistent to really challenge maybe in the All-Ireland series, do you think?
We don't know. I think Roscommon, we've all enjoyed watching Roscommon a lot. They are an exceptionally talented team. I think under Davy Burke there was much excitement initially. I think they were top of Division 1 as well for a period of time. And then they fell back away from that again. I think your term, Cathal, in terms of it seems quieter. There's less excitement coming out of them this time. I think they've been there, done that. They have perennially, a wee bit like Monaghan, they have perennially done really well. Probably fought amongst the biggest counties there and very much held their own and got some really noteworthy victories. But there has been a glass ceiling of that sort of All-Ireland semi-final stage that they have never taken out a big gun in Croker. And for that team of boys, I can imagine that's where they want to get to. The rules in terms of their forward potential certainly seems very good for them. They've obviously the St. Bridget's lads coming back in as well, so they're going to be healthy in terms of numbers. They're in a really, really good position. I think the general strength out west in Connacht with Mayo and Galway also going very, very well. I think that's a good thing for Roscommon. But Roscommon, for me, and I'd imagine for most others that keep their eye on the game, are a very, very good one of those top. We've essentially 8-9 top teams in the game, and so you've always a couple that drop down to Division 2 and they're not really Division 2-esque. There's a group there of probably 10 Division 1 solid Division 1 teams that have been steadily there for years. Roscommon are one of those teams, but they're also one of those teams that have never made the final step up into the biggest games in Croke Park.
Yeah, you just wonder maybe an All-Ireland semi-final, maybe for them feels like it would be a big step. You mentioned Mayo there, and the balloon burst a small bit for them yesterday, particularly in the first 20-25 minutes against Donegal, where they had the benefit of a very, very strong breeze. But I think they had only 2 points after 17 minutes, Ryan O'Donoghue with a long-range one for a 2-pointer free. But they did stick at it, Mayo, in fairness, and Andy Moran spoke about that after that. He took great heart from the way that they kind of stuck at it in that second half.
Yeah, there's nothing to dampen optimistic feeling than travel to the wilds of Donegal when the wind and rain is blowing and you face a Donegal team that's determined to just hold the ball. So yeah, Mayo's game plan, and there was much made of the amount of kicking happening and the readiness of teams to kick it in the initial rounds of the league. And again, we're just going to be learning so much as we go through this year. The issue with that is, if we're saying that possession is so key and you're so willing to just kick it and have the gamble, when those gambles don't work out and you're playing against a team that's, if it's fine if you're playing against a team that's also willing to just kick it and just give it back and have a go, which the likes of Galway and Kerry probably are very willing to go that sort of fast route. But against the likes of Galway, when you give them possession, well, you're going to be sitting watching them hold possession for 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time. If you and Donegal done that brilliantly in the first half, what that means is that, and they were very good at getting possession off their own kickouts. So if they're going to take 2, 3, 4 minutes with each of their attacks in a 35-minute half, that means that massively reduces the number of times Mayo gets to attack and tries to get a score, just through that simple thing of Galway holding the ball. And like Mayo were pushed up one against one. They ran all over the pitch, but Donegal just simply ran away from them. Great lines, constant sort of loops, really smart, intelligent players on the ball, and it was massively effective for Donegal in that first half, and a real lesson that, in terms of that aspect of the game, that is certainly one approach that bears fruit. And it was a really difficult day for Mayo. They stuck at it, and I think the biggest lesson is they have to balance that willingness to kick it with, again, going back to this game management type thing. There's very limited game management, but you have to know when the opposition is playing possession ball and you eventually get your hands on it after watching them have it for 3 minutes, you can't just suddenly just launch it into a 50-50. And 10 seconds later you're back out of possession again. So there will certainly be lessons learned, but that is what Mayo's in a good position. They have a lot of players who are looking as if they're in really good form. They need to learn lessons with a new game plan, and you're better have those lessons now in February than in June and July.
One thing that Jim McGuinness was asked about afterwards was Finbar Rorty, who I think tracked Ryan O'Donoghue man on man and did brilliantly. Actually went down the other end and kicked a couple of scores as well, which was an interesting approach from Donegal. And I suppose it's like hammer the hammer, isn't it? Because O'Donoghue has been the key man for Mayo over the first couple of games, but Rorty is a really fine defender.
He's outrageous. He's one of the best young defenders I've seen come through in many's a year. And I was watching him on club duty a few times last year, and there's another lad, Max Campbell, who's not of the similar sort of build and drive, but Rorty's just he's sensational. And I think at the moment Donegal overall just look by far currently the best team in Ireland by a distance, and things will obviously change as we move towards the championship. We talk about Roscommon, who really should be on 5 points out of 6. They should have got a point down in Tralee, and we're wondering, will they stay at a distance? Donegal, without question, are going to stay at a distance, and it look even better at this stage than they did last year when they pulled the handbrake up, obviously, before the league final. That's not going to be the case this year. I think they made it very clear, Niall McGoy made it very clear yesterday, that they're going all out for league. They will get there to the final, I've no doubt about that. It just looks so good. And they're just pulling in players. Now, Conor McCahill, 4 Masters, have been the dominant underage team in Donegal in recent years. I think it's 4 minor championships in a row, and he's been an excellent player for them. He came on, yes, it kicked a lovely score. I think it might have been the first score of the game, actually. Another good find. Come on at Croke Park last couple of minutes or against Dublin. Still a McCrory Cup.
I think that's one of McGuinness's most impressive things. Like he started, Michael Murphy gave him the captaincy, ridiculously young too. That didn't work out too badly. He brought in McBrearty really young. He's played as 17, 18-year-olds. Like, he wasn't in a Mechanic Cup game. He played a 17-year-old. So he is somebody, even though he's got a well-established team there, he's somebody that continually gives gambles and gives chances to lads at 17, 18 years of age, which in the modern game with their conditioning and that, you'd think it's a bigger step up than ever he has brought a serious. Now maybe he's just lucky with the hands he's dealt. They're all remarkable footballers, the ones we've talked about, but still he has repeatedly done it, and he's doing it again now. This year, the McGroarty thing, obviously he's a stunning defender, but Conor McCall yesterday, when I seen he's still doing his leave insert, like that's phenomenal, and he has repeatedly done that. So it's another, not that he particularly needs another way to impress people or to show his strengths as a manager, but that's certainly one of them.
And the thing about it though, it leaves Michael Murphy this year almost as that, not a, don't want to say a luxury player, but there's no sense that Donegal without Murphy can't be victorious. You know, he obviously played so well last year for them on his return, but you're looking at him now and he can maybe use this year in a different sort of role. He hasn't got many minutes in.
Do you think?
Well, yeah, I do. If you
impact sub,
yeah. I think I don't think he's a guaranteed starter. Obviously not talent wise, but just in terms of.
I think that has to be. It has to be the way McGuinness is saying. Like, that's the ultimate. Games are decided coming down the stretch. You need your big players. You need a lift. The big swings in games, the momentum things that can happen midway through second halves. You need your a really top player coming onto that pitch with 20 minutes to go, with Murphy's age profile, with what he means to Donegal, with what he means to his players, his experience, his ability to kick 2-pointers, all of those things coming down the stretch. I think that has to be, as long as he has other players all playing well, and Oisín Gallen's return yesterday in his form, if he can keep him going really, really well, then absolutely I think you hold Murphy for that absolutely crucial final 20-25 minutes, and games go into extra time.
It's just so hard to imagine though, isn't it?
You know, you think back to 03 and Cavan coming back in. Could you imagine an All-Ireland final with 20 minutes to go? It's in the balance, and Donegal bring on Michael Murphy. Like, just a psychological damage that would do to the opposition as much as the boost it would give to Donegal. And I don't know if you mentioned there, Enda, like Conor O'Donnell again is just turning into a terrific option for Donegal. They're just blessed with so many options.
Two of them are playing phenomenally well. But like, if you go back to say the final last year against Kerry, I remember watching that game, and you just had that sense that this game was being dictated to by Kerry, that Donegal were out of ideas. You could see the Donegal management team on the sideline, and they were in discussions, but you could just sense that thing that we're in bother here. If you have Michael Murphy on the bench, no matter what way that game is going, if you feel in your bother, when you put him in, the rest of those Donegal players will look around and think, hang on, okay, here, let's settle ourselves and go again. Whereas he was already in there, so when things were going wrong, and that can happen, when things were going wrong, but your ace is sitting on the pitch, you don't have that big lever to pull. So I would imagine that feeling, even from last year's final and everything else, you want that person on the bench.
Yeah, okay. Let's see how that one plays out. 2 games on Saturday as well, lads. I think it was Malachy Clerkin in the Irish Times said that it was 2 middling teams playing at Croke Park. That was Dublin and Monaghan. Dublin got through at the end. They got a goal towards the end. Monaghan missed quite a few goal chances, Niall, didn't they? We were talking about this one before.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game. On a weekend of pure entertainment, it wasn't a great game. The highlight was Quigley's finish for the Dublin goal. It was a fantastic finish, and into the hill. It must be a great moment for him. I think I counted 7 genuine Monaghan goal chances. And I'm not talking half chance, I'm talking proper goal chances. Didn't take a single one. And I think when they reviewed the video, they'll wonder just how they lost that game. It was particularly in the third quarter, they took complete control of the midfield battle, as we've talked about numerous times in this podcast, and really should have put the game beyond Dublin, and just give Dublin enough oxygen to keep them in the game. And when you've Con O'Callaghan, you always have a chance, and Con lofted over a couple of beautiful 2-pointers. Just a bit of excellence on an evening of averageness across the board. Look like 2 teams that still have so much work to do. Monaghan are probably condemned at this stage, to be fair. Dublin, they're on the board. Listen, the points on the board, and maybe let's kickstart, but just so many holes in the defence. Any sort of running at them, direct running, caused them big problems.
Yeah. In fairness to Ger Brennan, he has taken a long-term view, though, of this kind of Dublin project, hasn't he? And he's spoken like that as well. So I just wonder, Are they overly concerned maybe if relegation does happen? Are they massively concerned about it?
I wouldn't say they're majorly concerned. I don't think Division 2 is the... And I think we've had a couple of winners from Division 2 in recent years.
They went down before. They were down there already. Yeah.
It's not the end of the world of any sense. I just... I think people, because it's Dublin, maybe just aren't cotton on to just how off the pace to look at the moment. And Ger probably has to deconstruct before he rebuilds, you know, and we're seeing that in how they're playing. It's Leinster's going to be very open this year.
It's shaping up to be great, isn't it?
You're going to have 3 genuine contenders, and then maybe even Kildare if they get going. But you've Louth, Meath and Dublin. You're going to have a natural, really competitive Leinster Championship, which a couple of years ago seemed something we couldn't imagine in our lifetime.
And Kildare won't be happy with you now.
Oh no, they just that was a big second half to throw away at Kildare. Like Derry, really, I don't know if you saw Paul Cassidy's goal, but just
absolute cracker,
unbelievable. The finish was superb. Like, but that's a hell of a win for Derry. Back-to-back wins after waiting so long for it. Like, and all of a sudden their whole league campaign just looks completely different. But I think it's the manner of you're digging in there. I think they were down to 12 players at one stage versus 14, and just to grind that out in. I think they were playing against the Breeze. It's down in Newbridge. Don't traditionally bring a massive following with them. Although listening to the bit of radio commentary, there did seem a good Derry crowd down.
And did you see the Derry crowd afterwards? They highlighted this on League Sunday last night. They hung around to clap the players off the pitch. Like they've gone through a tough time over 2025 and all those defeats, but they do seem to have the bit between the teeth maybe now.
Yeah, I know. I can see Enda there sweating, thinking of Derry getting on a roll. But listen, Derry are an unbelievably good squad, and if they start getting a bit of momentum and carrying the Ulster, it's who knows where they can go.
Yeah, Enda, what do you make of their revival over the last couple of weeks? They obviously got the better of your own Tyrone as well.
Yeah, look, they like that run of losses that they had. There was plenty of really. Only Dermot McCabe was probably more unlucky on some of the losses that they sustained during that period and some draws. So they were never a poor side. They never became a poor side. They had key personnel that were missing and then coming back and finding form. So eventually, if you stick at it and you've got a quality group, the wheel will turn, and it looks as if it's turned for them. Now again, they want to be trying to win an All-Ireland title, so they are certainly strong and they're certainly tracking in a much, much better place now, and the mood within the camp will be completely different. But they know that the air at the top, it gets exceptionally thin, and in Ulster with Donegal and Armagh already there, it's a tough place. And the Kerrys, the Galways, the Mayos, there's a lot of teams that are going very, very well out there. So Derry will be delighted that they're now back in a positive place and going for it. But they will be now knuckling down to say, right, let's chase down the top guns, and they'll know they're not there yet, but they're in a hell of a lot better place with their 2 wins under their belt. And absolutely, if they get it all together, they've got the weaponry and the personnel. They still probably want to be getting Shane McGuigan back to his absolute best. We've seen glimpses of that, but I think that's key for them as well.
And for 20 minutes, they actually played quite well against Meath. The first 20 minutes against Meath, they were pretty good. And then Meath, just as they tend to do, hit a run where they can just launch over 2-pointers and take control of a game, as we saw a game at the weekend where they can have a spell where they're just devastating. But for 20 minutes, Derry played decent football against them, so the signs had been there, as I said. Yeah,
and they still have loads of good players, don't they, with massive experience over the last few years. You mentioned Meath. I mean, Meath and Louth developed into a cracker.
Brilliant.
It started off as a cracker as well, with all those black cards that we didn't quite see, but there was definitely a bit of bite between them, as you would have probably anticipated before the match, given they met in the Leinster final last year. But you know, when you see teams getting late scores like Meath have done against Cavan, and now again at the weekend, Jack Flynn has kicked 2-pointers in the last couple of minutes. Sometimes you just get a sense that there's a bit of momentum around a team, and they seem to have carried it on from last year.
I don't know if has Jack Flynn's shot landed yet. The height he got was ridiculous. Really good game, really open. The Black Cards obviously left a lot of space at both ends of the pitch in the first half, and then when Sam Mulroy, like, it was an awful penalty. Like, then I've seen that boy hit so many penalties at club level and stuff, and he's probably the best penalty taker in Ireland. They're certainly up there, and it was just a really meek effort. And I don't know, I think that left 11 or 12 points between them at half time, and the way it was going, Meath were looking the better side, but Louth just showed a lot of character. Real
they did.
had nearly from identical spots, just kept pinging over 2-point frees, and to actually get back in front later on was testament to them. But Flynn and Meath just have this 2-point ability. Like, you know, we've seen it ever since the Roos. And even before the Roos came in the year, they won the Tailteann Cup. They launched over a couple of monsters. There would have been 2-pointers back then, obviously, but they would only count as one. But they just have this long range shooting ability, and there's something about them. There really is.
I mean, I just wonder, lads, when Meath sit down to set goals at the start of the year, what is their goal for this year?
Well,
is it a Leinster title, or do they think that something beyond that can happen? Because obviously they beat Kerry last year, they beat Dublin last year, they beat Galway last year. They were in an All-Ireland semi-final.
I think both. I think Leinster's absolutely one of the goals to set. I don't think they'd make any secret about that. But like, as you say, they got to the semi-final last year in March to come up against a really seasoned team and probably learn so much from that. But like, why not? I'd say Robbie Brennan, just listen to his interviews and the freedom he talks about giving the players. Like, I'd imagine their goals are set very, very high.
Yeah, it looks like an enjoyable place to be right now, end of the Meath panel, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I think they see themselves almost as mavericks. I think that certainly suits Robbie Brennan's style, like the Wimbledon crazy gang from a long, long time ago. There's just something about them, and so yes, they'll know that they're not favourites for the Ireland, but they'll absolutely relish the thought of breaking up the party and going in and smashing and grabbing it, and they will. You just get the feeling they will always, no matter what the situation, they'll back themselves to have a cut at it and have a go and see where it lands, and let's see who can take them down, that sort of attitude. And it's doing them no harm at all at the minute. They're a fresh breath of fresh air, or a breath of fresh air into that Leinster Championship and even into the All-Ireland sort of series. They're a team, I don't think they're a team that anybody would feel particularly comfortable going into face, because you just don't know what they're at, and they've got size, they've got some really classy forwards, they've got their 2-point shooting ability, they've legs, they've a lot of things in their bow, and they've just that attitude, both carefree. Like a lot of the top teams, you're always playing with a pressure on yourself, and there's an expectation. Meath at the minute don't have that.
Yeah,
and it's really standing them in good stead.
And Leinster's become in a situation now where there's probably half a dozen teams realistically that would have genuine aspirations of actually winning the Leinster Championship, which is some turnaround from, say, even 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's I do think, if you ask me now, I do think Meath are the best Leinster side at the moment, and as you say, Dublin being so dominant, where we never saw that dominance end, and it's
all of a sudden it's just happened, hasn't
and
it?
it's the same. We talk about Derry are getting the All-Ireland semi-finals only a couple of years ago. It's the game now, it's just changes so fast, but it can change back the other way just as quickly, so exciting.
Just a word end on Tyrone. They got their win yesterday, 223 to 114 against Cavan. Particularly in the second half, they were good. And Dara Canavan, his class shone through. He is off to Australia for a month, so he will miss a bit of time. But is that the win, do you think, to spark Tyrone into life in Division 2?
I think they've put in good work the past 2 weeks. I thought yesterday for before that it was on exceptionally rare occasions, but yesterday on multiple occasions you got a real sense of energy in the attack. Some good interplay, people getting the passes. The majority, I would still say there's probably more to be there or more to be got from it, but the passes going to the right people at the right times. 3, 4, 5 men doing that sort of really strong sprint and attack. Kennedy's goal was a perfect example of it. So that type of energy and that type of speed and aggressiveness to their attack, Tyrone, for a lot of numbers of years previously, had become very, very set and all about trying to break down an opposition and control games. And I think they've struggled a wee bit with breaking away from that. They certainly have the footballing ability, as we've seen yesterday, like some of the wee passes, some of the interplays was really, really good. So yeah, look, but I thought Brian Kennedy's performance in midfield was massive. He's so key for them in round there. Obviously, Dara was playing very well. I think the break will do him the world of good, to be honest. He had surgery there over the winter as well. He's just coming back from that. He's ready in good form. So I think getting away, the fact that he's had that good performance, and hopefully he follows it up with one against Louth, and then away on a break. I know there's people saying he'll not have match practice coming into championship, but I think the same boy will be fine. And Malachy, to get that win, and suddenly it looks as if promotion's not off the table. They've more men coming back in. So yeah, look, Tyrone, most importantly, they showed a life and an energy to them, to themselves yesterday, particularly on the front foot, which they haven't shown enough of in a long time. So that was great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the third quarter for me just proved the difference between the two sides. Cavan had really good attacking positions. Garage McKiernan, who looked in great shape, I have to say, had dropped a couple short. There was one kick pass in, I think maybe McVeety put in, there could have been a goal chance. It was all just a wee bit off. And then just up the other end, McElhone coming off at speed, Kahneman just conducting everything. It's ridiculous. Like, I thought he was absolutely sublime.
He was, wasn't he? He was really, really good.
Yeah, I bring up Peter in 03, and now we have another one to worry about. Like, it's just, he's just a fantastic player. Just enjoy to watch.
And there's an abundance of talent, isn't there, coming through in Tyrone with all those under-20 successes over the last number of years. So I suppose it's about knitting all that together, which isn't an easy thing to do either.
Which the last time I was on the podcast, that's what Peter was on. We were talking, Malachy, maybe it's hard to work out his best team and where to fit some of these boys. But I think, so we started to see more. And I suppose that's what we've seen in the past. The first two rounds before the break in the league, there's always a bit of a mishmash. And then from round 3 onwards, you start to see a bit more firmness on selections. And you see, if injuries allow, you start to see more closer to what you expect. And I think, so at Tyrone, you start to see more of that shape. And using Matty Donnelly very well as well, it's key for that experience.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing having maybe 30, 40 good players and having a good depth of a good level of football, but your top teams still have 8, 9, 10 exceptional level players who are experienced and are there, and then a good 10 in behind that then fight for those remaining sort of 5 places or so and have your impact on the bench. And it's grand having 30 or 40 lads, good lads that are all good footballers. They could do it, but you need your standouts, and you need 8, 9, 10 standouts that are nailed on. You would never start without them if they're fit, and they are top level players. So Tyrone at the minute certainly have a big batch of good players coming up. They need several of them to put the hands up and say, no, I'm not just a good player, I'm a top player. So the more of them that start to put the hands up and nail down places, then you see a top team emerge. Tyrone, those under-20 All-Irelands are fairly recent. The last time the 2021 All-Ireland came 6 years after a under-21 All-Ireland. So it takes time for those under-20s to come through fully as a group. But certainly it's better to have them and see where they go than not have them.
Yeah, so Tyrone back in contention for promotion from Division 2, and Cork going along nicely as well. They won again against Offaly yesterday, and we didn't get a chance even to mention Kerry and Galway from Saturday night as well. That was a live game on television that finished in a draw, and truly good work from Galway there to make that big comeback towards the end. But lads, just before we finish, just wanted to touch on Antrim, because both of you know Ulster football inside out, and I think a lot of people, it's probably concern and worry now around Antrim, the position that they're in, bottom of Division 4, 3 defeats from 3. They were beaten by Longford yesterday by 127 to 114. Enda, you were manager there for a couple of years. When you were there, nearly managed to get up to Division 2 at one stage. What's your take on where Antrim are at right now?
I suppose we talked at the top of the show in terms of the likes of Roscommon and plenty of teams. You can have a real good spell for a period of time, and then you can sink back down again. And it's more difficult the further the levels you go down. Antrim are certainly in a tough place at the minute, and there will be a lot of outside noise around that camp. I think as a county, in terms of their underage setups and in terms of school setups and things like that, they are well behind the curve. Certainly in Ulster now, the unfortunate thing for them is within Ulster the level of setup in schools and academies and underage coaching that is present in their neighbouring counties is phenomenal. Like, I know obviously the Tyrone setup, and it still astounds me the work that's going on in clubs and schools in my own county. And Antrim's then a sort of a poor relation compared to that, and without that really strong base, you just struggle to have enough really high quality players coming through Antrim. Well, they absolutely have very good teams within Antrim. They have very good footballers within Antrim, but it's having enough of them. And then there's the pull of the hurling. So Dunloy are the current county champions, and several of them are exceptional footballers, obviously, because they've won the football championship, but they're primarily from a hurling region, and their loyalty would still be to the hurlers, and there's more of them going to the hurlers at the minute. And that takes away several of your best players, which immediately puts you on the back foot, and then injuries and people leaving, it just all weakens the setup. Division 4 is tricky for the teams down there. You can say that's Division 4. If we get our group together, we can suddenly get up, but every team down there is thinking the same thing, and it's very easy, the gaps, the wee mistakes, it's very easy to lose games and get into a bad place. And unfortunately, when you're in a bad place in the lower counties, the outside noise is very significant, and it's hard for players to pull in, close it off, and really go after it together, because the biggest rewards that the top teams can sort of go hunting after aren't really within your grasp. So it's a hard sell to get players to fully buy in and to go for it.
Yeah, I think me and Enda could talk for about 2 hours here about Antrim. It's short term. I was looking there, 5 wins in the last 20, so that's 1 win in 4. It's very hard to build up any sort of positive momentum. I think it's 11 debutants in the first 3 league games. So short term things aren't great. Long term, you just look at Antrim from the outside, and obviously has big experience of it and done very well in trying circumstances. You just wonder, is the will there to be an Antrim footballer? Is the will, or are boys growing up wanting to put everything on hold for the sake of Antrim football? And I just don't know if it is. You know, people talk about Casement Park not being about. Possibly there's no symbol there for Antrim football. Plays a part, but there's just so many reasons, I think, with Antrim. From you could pull from every thread, and they're behind the curve against nearly every other Ulster county. And is the desire there, or the structures there to make up the gap? At the moment, absolutely not. I don't see the situation rapidly improving. They've such a huge population base. It's not like Fermanagh, who are pulling from such a small numbers and probably doing as well as they can, and so few possible. Antrim's completely different, but it's just it's a strange situation with Antrim. Yeah. I don't know the answer. It needs a root and branch review of the whole thing from the ground up, and we're seeing it leak into the hurling too. The hurling's at such a low ebb now as well, so it's not just about this football team. And it's wrong to look at just these 3 league matches and say Antrim's gone to the dogs at the moment. It's the county as a whole is just so far behind, as Enda says. All their neighbours, like, they're surrounded there by the likes of even Down, who haven't been at top level. Down have got their structures in place over the last couple of years. Have got things back.
And they won the McCrory.
Yeah,
or that, I suppose.
I think it was the Armagh boys got them over the line, but it's you know, a lot of down underage teams are making ground. Conor Labley's making ground. Antrim, it's just very hard to see any sort of positives at the moment.
And it feels like it's important, not just for Antrim, obviously, but from a GA point of view, because you always hear, oh, it's important for Dublin to have their structures in place because they have the population, or Cork to do well every so often. Belfast is a huge urban area that's of crucial importance, you would have thought, to the vibrancy of the GA in its totality.
Yeah, and you know, there's other issues, obviously, with the city, but I think people are looking and they think, oh, if we can do it in Dublin, we can do it in Antrim, and it'd be much more versed in this. It's not the same, obviously. It's not the same. Everywhere is different, yeah. It's not easy, and it's a city with a lot of other sports very, very popular, and the Gra for Gaelic and the Gra to wear that saffron jersey, it's just, I don't know. It's you know, a chicken and egg situation. You need this good senior team and a hurling team as well for young ones to really want to buy in and dream of playing for Antrim, and they're seeing them bottom of Division 4. The hurling team's not going well at the moment, although they're very unlucky in Wexford, obviously, but it's meandering along, and there's certainly no quick solution, and I don't think there will be a quick solution. It's tough times. Yeah,
well, let's see. I suppose we're still very early in the season as well, so there is still time to turn this campaign around, but that's almost our lot for this Monday. Just a reminder for you as well, you can get in touch with the podcast on our email address. You can get us at sportpodcasts@rte.ie, and you can like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. We'll be back again on Thursday with our preview show of next weekend's action. But for now, big thanks to Niall and Enda, and we'll talk to you soon.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by